Hey guys, welcome back. Take a deep breath. I want you to picture something. The oppressive heat of the day has broken, and a cool breeze is starting to stir. You are a monk. You're sitting on a stone bench under the arches of a cloister, a massive stone mortar resting in front of you. The courtyard garden is a riot of lavender, rosemary, and thyme, and the air is thick with a heavy, almost narcotic perfume that promises peace, calm, and a good night's sleep. You've just snipped a few fresh bundles of lavender from the garden, and you can still recall the crisp, juicy crunch as your shears bit through the woody stems. You drop the fragrant purple heads into the stone bowl, grip the heavy, rounded pestle, and begin to grind. A slow, rhythmic, scraping crunch. Face scrashapper, thunk, scrashapper. Asterisk stone on stone, crushing the life and the oils out of the herbs. It's a beautifully earthy, textured sound. In the distance, from the chapel, you can hear the low, rumbling drone of your brothers chanting Vespers, the evening prayer. The Gregorian chant hangs in the air like a sacred mist. If you close your eyes, you could almost believe you've fallen into a holy dream. A moment of perfect, tranquil sanctity. It's a lovely thought, isn't it? The perfect subject for a painting. The ultimate medieval wellness retreat. Because that serene, holy dream is a fantasy. The reality is grittier, smellier, and infinitely more miserable. That peace you think you're feeling, it's just exhaustion. And that holy calling, you never had a choice. You think you'd thrive in this rustic paradise. You, with your sensitive palate, your desire for a comfortable mattress, and your quaint attachment to modern antibiotics. You wouldn't last a week. Congratulations. The year is 1150, and you are Brother Thomas, and your life is, by every conceivable modern standard, an abyss of suffering. You've been sitting on it for the better part of an hour, and your backside has gone from numb to a dull, throbbing ache. The cold of the stone, a welcome relief at first, has seeped directly into your bones. A deep, damp chill is crawling up your spine, a familiar precursor to the ache that will settle in your lower back and stay with you all night. Your posture is terrible. Centuries of ergonomic design have been uninvented, and your spine is paying the price. It's always itchy, always. It carries the faint, sour aroma of old sweat, damp wool, and the day's labor. That beautiful, calming scent of lavender from the garden. It's not an ambient perfume. It's a desperate and failing attempt to mask the baseline odor of 50 unwashed men living in close quarters. You grip the pestle again. It's heavy. It is awkwardly. You're practicing medicine, or what passes for medicine in the 12th century, which is, to be blunt, a form of well-intentioned torture based on terrible guesswork. Let's talk about your patient. He's the reason you're out here, missing chants, your arms aching. Yesterday, he was helping repair the roof of the scriptorium when a loose slate gave way. He didn't fall far, just slid a few feet and scraped his shin rather badly on the edge of the gutter. A trip to an urgent care clinic, a few stitches, a tetanus shot, and a prescription for antibiotics. You'll probably forget to finish. You'd be complaining about the copay for a week. Here, in 1150, that simple gash is a potential death sentence, and you are the attending physician. The lavender isn't for his anxiety. You're not trying to create a calming atmosphere for his recovery. According to the wisdom you've learnt from the infirmera, Brother Antoine, a man whose primary medical qualification is that he's old and has seen a lot of people die. Lavender has properties that can help dry out, a wound and discourage putrefaction. It's a theory, one of many. You're also mixing in a bit of thyme for its supposed hot and dry properties, to counteract the cold and moist nature of the infection that is almost certainly beginning to set in. This is the cutting edge of medical science, the theory of the four humours. Everything is about balancing blood. Brother Lucien's wound, you've been told, is showing signs of an excess of phlegm. It's weeping a whitish fluid. Therefore, you must apply something hot and dry. It's all very logical, like a terribly designed board game. The good news is, you have a system. The bad news is, the system is completely, utterly wrong. It has no more bearing on scrasape, thunk asterisk. A purple-green paste is beginning to form at the bottom of the mortar. It smells wonderful. A clean, sharp, floral scent that speaks of summer fields and sunshine. You lift the pestle for a moment, and because beneath the lavender, other scents assert themselves. There's the damp, mossy smell of the ancient stone of the cloister walls, a smell like a wet basement from the kitchens across the courtyard. There's the thin, unappetizing odour of tonight's supper, simmering, a vast cauldron of vegetable pottage, which is a fancy name for boiled mush. It smells of limp cabbage and watery turnips, and underneath it all, drifting on the breeze from the direction of the infirmary, is another smell. A cloying, you sigh, a long, weary exhalation that does nothing to relieve the tension in your shoulders. The bell for vigils before dawn, the bell for lords at sunrise, the bell for prime, terce, sex, nun, vespers, compline. Your day is chopped into segments by prayer, a relentless, monotonous rhythm that has governed your life since you were 7 years old. You didn't choose this life. You now understand it was a business transaction, an elegant way to dispose of a spare heir while securing a bit of spiritual credit. Your memories of the world outside these walls are like a dream you can't quite recall. The feel of a horse, the taste of roasted meat, your mother's face, they're hazy, indistinct. This monastery is your reality. It is your home, your office, and your prison. You scrape the herbal paste from the mortar into a small wooden bowl. It's a long, dark room off the main cloister, right next to the dormitory. The lavender in your bowl feels like a pathetic joke. The dominant scent is a cocktail of stale sweat, unwashed linen, the sharp tang of urine from a bucket in the corner, and that sweet, rotting fruit smell of infection. They are not beds. They are wooden frames with straw, stuffed pallets laid over them. No memory foam. No adjustable settings. The straw is packed with fleas, and God knows what else. It rustles every time someone moves, a dry whispering sound like secrets being told by insects. 4 of the beds are occupied. Old Brother Philip, with a cough that rattles his entire frame, is spitting something dark into a rag. Brother Clement has a fever that makes his teeth chatter even in the heat, and a young novice you don't even know is lying perfectly still, his face the colour of old parchment. He's been like that for 2 days. And then there's Brother Lucien. He's propped up on his pallet, his face pale and beaded with sweat. His leg is uncovered, resting on a pile of folded rags that were once white. You don't need to be a master of the 4 humours to see that this is bad. The skin around the gash is no longer just red. It's an angry, swollen purple, and the edges of the wound are tinged with a greasy, ominous black. The cut itself is weeping a thick, yellowish, green fluid that smells like old cheese. The pain. You nod. I've prepared a poultice, you say, your own voice sounding hollow in the oppressive quiet of the room. Lavender and thyme, to draw out the bad humours and dry the wound. You kneel beside him. The smell is much worse up close. It's a living thing. You hold your breath as you gently smear the fragrant green paste over the angry, weeping flesh. It's like putting a flower petal on a volcano. The cool paste makes Lucien hiss in a sharp intake of breath, a sound of pure agony. The vibrant, healthy scent of the lavender is instantly swallowed by the stench of gangrene. For a moment, the two smells mingle in a truly nauseating combination, like a funeral home that's tried to cover up a problem with cheap air freshener. You know, on some level, that this will do nothing. You've seen this before. You saw it with Brother Mark, who cut his hand in the kitchens. You saw it with the stable boy who was kicked by a mule. The angry swelling, the black edges, the fever, the poultices, the prayers, the bleeding. Nothing works, but you go through the motions. Brother Antoine enters the room, his sandals slapping softly on the stone floor. He's a thin, wiry man with eyes that have seen too much and said too little. He looks at your handiwork, then at Lucien's leg. He places a dry, cool hand on Lucien's forehead. The fever is worse, he says. It's not a question. He will need to let some of it out. Go and fetch the phlegm and the bowl, of course. The universal customer service solution for every medieval ailment. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Or in this case, have you tried draining some of the vital fluid necessary for life out of the patient? You nod dutifully and go to the small cabinet where the medical supplies are kept. The phlegm is a small, sharp blade, designed for opening a vein. The bowl is a simple ceramic one, marked with lines to measure the amount of blood. This is your advanced medical technology. This is the height of your intervention. The process is grimly familiar. You tie a strip of cloth tightly around Lucien's upper arm. The veins bulge, blue and vulnerable. Brother Antoine mutters a quick prayer. Whether for Lucien or for himself, you're not sure. He takes the phlegm, presses it against the crook of Lucien's elbow, and gives it a sharp tap. There's no anesthetic. Lucien cries out, a sharp, strangled sound, and arches his back. A dark stream of blood, almost black in the dim light, spurts into the bowl. You watch, mesmerized and horrified, as the level rises. Zone ounce 2. The goal is to bleed him until he is on the verge of fainting. That, according to the theory, is when the bad humour has been sufficiently expelled. The good news is, you are actively treating your patient with the best medical care available in the known world. The bad news is, you are actively bleeding a man who is already weakened by fever and a raging infection, making him even more vulnerable and accelerating his journey toward the grave. The blood slows to a trickle. Lucien is limp, his head lolled to the side, his breathing shallow. Brother Antoine bandages the arm and nods satisfied. That should cool his fever, he declares. If the putrefaction continues, he says quietly, his voice devoid of emotion. A simple, rust-flecked amputation saw, more suitable for pruning trees than for cutting through human bone and flesh. There is no anesthetic for that either. Just 4 strong monks to hold the patient down, a leather strap for him to bite on, and a prayer that he faints from the pain quickly. Your lavender poultice is the first step. The phlegm is the second. The sore is the last. And after the sore, there is usually only the grave. You leave the infirmary, the metallic scent of fresh blood now mingling with all the others in your memory. The chanting has ended. The monastery is settling into the brief period of quiet before the final prayer of the day. Compline, after which absolute silence is mandatory until the next morning. The world feels profoundly silent. The feskra ape, thunk fey of your grinding is gone. The groans of the sick are muffled by the stone walls. Even the wind seems to have died down. It looks peaceful. It looks serene. The distant, holy chant. You sit back down on the cold stone bench, not because you want to, but because it's not yet time for compline, and there is nowhere else for you to be. You are trapped in this holy dream, and you have just realized it is a nightmare. Your back aches. You are hungry, but the thought of the watery pottage makes you are tired, but you know your sleep will be shallow and filled with the rustling of straw and the phantom smell of decay. This is your life, day after day. There is no escape. There is no promotion. There is no retirement plan, other than a space on one of those straw pallets in the infirmary, waiting for some other young monk to smear a useless, fragrant paste on your own infected wound. You look up at the stars, impossibly bright in a world without light pollution. They are cold and distant and offer no comfort whatsoever. You think about your lavender poultice. Perhaps it will serve one useful function after all. When Brother Lucien finally dies, in a day or two, his body will be washed and prepared for burial. And for a little while, at least, he might smell faintly, beautifully of lavender. It is, you realize with a soul, crushing certainty, the very best that you can do. Hey, I want you to picture something. It's the year of our Lord 1150. You're in Provence, in the south of France. It's the evening of a scorching summer day. The sunset is doing that thing it does in postcards, painting the high stone walls of a monastery in shades of gold and blood orange. The oppressive heat of the day has finally broken, and a gentle breeze is starting to stir. You're sitting on a cool stone bench under the arches of a cloister. The courtyard garden is a riot of lavender, rosemary, and thyme, and the air is thick with their scent, a potent, almost dizzying perfume designed to calm the soul. You've just snipped a fresh bundle of lavender, and you can still feel the memory of that crisp, juicy crunch as your shears bit through the stems. You tip the herbs into the mortar. You grasp the heavy stone pestle and begin to grind slowly, methodically. The scrape and crunch of stone on stone, the wet tearing of plant fibers, the gradual release of fragrant oils. It's an earthy, satisfying sound, a kind of primal white noise. From the chapel nearby, you can hear the low, resonant drone of your brothers chanting their evening prayers, the timeless sound of Gregorian chant. You close your eyes. That's the fantasy, isn't it? You, with your 21st century brain, your pampered immune system, and your deeply ingrained expectation of basic comfort, would not last 12 hours in this holy dream. This is a masterclass in sustained low-grade misery, punctuated by moments of acute horror. So, let's try this again. Keep your eyes closed, but this time, we're doing it my way. Congratulations. You are now Brother Thomas, and the year is still 1150. The sun is indeed setting, casting long, dramatic shadows that make the abbey look less like a house of God and more like a fortress waiting for a siege. The light catches the motes of dust, pollen, and whatever else is floating in the air, a golden haze of allergens. The breeze is picking up. That's the good news. The bad news is, it's turning, and it's beginning to carry a faint soupy odour from the direction of the communal latrine trench. A little preview of coming attractions. You are sitting on a stone bench. It's a hard, unforgiving slab of granite that has been expertly sucking the warmth out of your backside for the last 20 minutes. A deep, penetrating cold is seeping into your hip bones. A feeling you know will turn into a dull, grinding ache by the time you're allowed to sleep. The bench was carved by a man who either hated the human form or had never actually tried to sit on his own work. There are no ergonomics in the kingdom of God and you. You are a monk, but you're not here because of a divine calling. Let's be honest. You're the third son of a minor nobleman. Your older brother gets the land. Your second brother got married off to the daughter of a slightly less minor nobleman. And you got God, or rather, your family got you a permanent, non-negotiable internship with God's terrestrial representatives. Your vocation was a practical decision made by your father to get you off the family payroll. You're not here for enlightenment. You're here because you were a rounding error in a dynastic calculation. You're wearing the uniform, a tunic of coarse, undyed wool. It's not the soft, breathable linen of your daydreams. It's a rough, hairy torment. Think of it as a full-body Brillo pad. It's hot when it's hot. It's freezing when it's wet. And it is perpetually, unforgivably itchy. An incessant, maddening prickle that you can never, ever satisfy. Scratching is a sign of worldly attachment to bodily comfort. So you just sit there, feeling the 1,000 tiny needles of your holy habit, a constant reminder of your fallen, fleshly state. Or maybe just a reminder that this thing is infested with fleas. Fleas are a given. They are your tiny, blood-sucking roommates, and they are legion. The skin is rough, cracked, and stained with dirt and plant juice. Your fingernails are black with grime that no amount of prayer will wash away. One of them is split down to the quick. It throbs in time with your pulse. In front of you is the mortar. It's huge, carved from a single block of stone, and it sits on the ground because it's too heavy to put on the bench. You are hunched over it, a posture that is doing wonders for your lower back. It's a blunt, heavy cudgel of rock. This isn't a gentle, mindful activity. This is manual labour. That crisp, juicy crunch of the shears was satisfying for a second. But you've been tending this garden since Matins, the prayer service that happened at 2 in the morning. The sun, which is now setting so poetically, spent the entire afternoon trying to boil you alive inside your woolen sack. The strong, soothing aroma of the herbs. After 8 hours, it's not soothing. It's suffocating. It clings to your clothes, your skin, your hair. You will go to bed smelling of lavender, and you will wake up smelling of lavender, and you will eat your meagre breakfast tasting lavender. It's less like aromatherapy and more like an industrial accident at a soap factory. You tip the bundle into the mortar. Fresh lavender, yes, and rosemary. But that's not all. That's in your little herbal cocktail. There's a handful of dried nettles that you had to pick very, very carefully. A chunk of bitter gentian root that smells like dirt and disappointment. And, for good measure, a few dried leaves of senna. You know what senna is for, don't you? It's a laxative. Because this fragrant, artisanal preparation isn't for a calming pillow sachet or a luxury bath oil. This is medicine, and you're not just some generic monk. You are the infirmarer's assistant. Your job is to prepare the remedies for the sick, and in 1150, the sick is not a small category. You grip the heavy pestle. It weighs about as much as a bowling ball. You heave it up and bring it down. The first blow just bruises the herbs, releasing a puff of scent. Know the real work begins. You brace your feet, lean your body weight into it, and start the grind. It's a raw, grating bone. On bone sound, fait cranch. Scrape cranch. Asterisk the stone pestle grinds against the stone mortar. A sound that sets your teeth on edge. It's the sound of mountains being worn down, but on a timescale that is deeply inconvenient for your biceps. Your shoulder starts to burn. There isn't one. The mixture is turning into a thick, greenish, brown sludge. It looks less like medicine, and more like something you'd find in a blocked drain. The smell is complex. It's a battleground of aromas, where the sweet perfume of lavender is desperately trying to mask a much more sinister vegetal funk. And who is this potent brew for? It's for Brother Philippe. Brother Philippe is 28 years old. Last week, while working in the fields, a scythe slipped and gave him a nasty gash on his shin. A simple cut, annoying, but not a big deal, right? You'd put a bandage on it. Maybe some antibacterial cream. Brother Philippe doesn't have access to your modern miracles. His wound was washed with well water and bound with a piece of not entirely clean linen. And now infection has set in. You don't need to see it to know. You can smell it, even out here, in the open-air cloister, with the breeze and the all, pervading lavender. You can smell it. It's the smell of pus. It's the smell of dying flesh. It's a smell that, once you've identified it, you can never ever forget. It's the smell of gangrene. So this herbal concoction you're so laboriously preparing, it's not going to cure him. You know it. The infirmary knows it. And deep down, Brother Philippe probably knows it too. The rest is mostly for show, to make him feel like something is being done. Your job is to create a poultice that will be plastered onto his leg, a fragrant, useless gesture against a rising tide of sepsis. Its main function will be to fail at masking the smell of his own body, putrefying while he's still alive. Put your back into it. Every scrape of stone on stone is a prayer for a man who is already dying. Fait crunch, scrape, crunch. From here, sitting on your cold stone bench with an aching back and the smell of death in your nostrils, it's just work. You know this chant. You also know that Brother Odo, who sings bass, is going to go flat on the third canticle. He always does. You know that young Brother Martin, a novice, will get nervous and come in a bar too early. And you know that the cantor, Brother Jean, will get a vein in his forehead that throbs when he's annoyed, which is most of the time. This isn't a heavenly choir. It's a group of tired, hungry men, many of whom were singing the same chants at 2 a.m. and will be up again in a few hours to sing them again at midnight for matins. Their throats are sore. Their minds are wandering. Someone is probably thinking about the bread ration at dinner. Someone else is silently praying the abbot, doesn't notice. He's nodding off. A deep, wet, chesty cough that will provide a percussive, phlegmy accompaniment to the holy plain song. The sound isn't pure. You have to finish grinding this sludge before the chant ends, because that's when dinner happens. And dinner. Oh, let's talk about dinner, the reward for your day of pious labor. This is a thin, greyish soup made from whatever vegetables didn't look good enough to sell at the market, boiled in water for hours until they've surrendered any semblance of flavour, texture, or nutritional value. It might have some beans in it. If it's a feast day, there might be a single sad egg floating in the pot for the entire refectory. You will eat it with a hunk of dark, dense bread. Bread so hard you could use it to hammer a nail. It's good for your teeth, in the sense that it gives them a real workout before they inevitably rot out of your head from a complete lack of dental care. To wash it down, water, or perhaps some heavily watered. The only sound will be the scraping of spoons in wooden bowls, and the voice of one brother, assigned to read aloud from a book of saints' lives. Scrape, crouch, asterisk. The pestle feels heavier now. It's sticky, and the smell, now right under your nose, is overwhelming. Lavender and death, the signature scent of your life. A thought flickers through your mind. A memory of a girl you knew before you took your vows, the way her hair smelled of sunshine and wood smoke. The thought is a flash of colour in your grey world, and you snuff it out immediately. That is a sin. Lust. A sin of memory. A sin of thought. You mutter. A quick mea culpa. Fey under your breath. And focus on the grinding. On the pain in your shoulder. On the cold of the stone. And being good, it turns out, feels an awful lot like being punished. Privacy. What's that? Any infraction. It belongs to God, and it is managed, in minute detail, by the abbot. The golden light is gone, replaced by a deep, bruised purple twilight. The cloister is filled with shadows. The breeze is colder now, and it carries the scent of the infirmary more strongly. You hear a low moan from that direction. The customer service line for the afterlife. You scrape it out of the mortar and into a wooden bowl, your hands trembling with fatigue. Your task is complete. You stand up. Your knees crackle like dry twigs. Your back sends a bolt of pure electric pain from your tailbone to your skull. You are 32 years old, and you move like a man of 70. You look around the courtyard. The herbs are just dark shapes in the gloom. The stone arches are black voids. The chanting from the chapel has stopped. In the sudden silence, you are trapped in a waking nightmare of endless repetition, physical discomfort, and the constant ambient presence of decay, the peace of surrendered hope. And you have to pretend. You have to pretend that this is God's will, and that it is all, somehow, for the best. So, tell me, still sound like a dream? Still fancy that rustic? The next time you're annoyed by a pop-up ad, or your Wi-Fi is slow, or your artisanal coffee isn't quite the right temperature, I want you to take a moment, take a deep breath, and be thankful, be profoundly, deeply thankful that you are not Brother Thomas. Be thankful for your soft bed, your hot shower, your ibuprofen. Be thankful for antibiotics. And be thankful that the most pressing thing you have to grind today is probably just coffee beans. Because trust me, the alternative is so much worse. Hey guys, welcome back. Maybe on a travel blog, or in a documentary with a soothing, vaguely British narrator. Provence, in the south of France. Rolling hills of lavender. Ancient stone villages basking in a permanent golden hour. The air humming with bees, and the promise of a really good glass of rosé. It's the kind of place people go to find themselves. And tonight, we're going to a very specific version of that dream. Picture it. A magnificent stone abbey, its walls glowing like embers in the setting sun. The brutal heat of the day has finally broken, and a gentle breeze whispers through the arched colonnades of a cloister. You're a monk. You're sitting on a cool stone bench, a heavy stone mortar in your lap. The air is thick with the calming. You've just snipped a fresh bundle of lavender, and you can still recall the crisp, juicy sound. the shears made as they bit through the stems. You tip the fragrant purple heads into the mortar, take up the heavy stone pestle, and begin to grind. A slow, rhythmic scrape and crunch, stone on stone, plant matter giving way, releasing its oils. In the distance, from the chapel, the Gregorian chant, the sound that has defined 1,000 years of faith. You close your eyes. You're inside a postcard, a tranquil, holy dream, a moment of pure historical bliss. Right wrong so profoundly, disgustingly wrong. That dream, that's the sanitized, filtered Instagram version of the 12th century. It's a lie. And tonight, we're going to burn that lie to the ground and poke through the ashes. The reality is so much more miserable, so much more uncomfortable, and frankly, so much more interesting. Congratulations. You are now Brother Antoine. Let's start with that cool stone bench you're sitting on. Not just firm, but aggressively, punitively hard. It was carved by a man with a hammer and chisel 8 decades ago. And ergonomics were not a key performance indicator on his job review. There is no give. There is no contour. After sitting here for 10 minutes, your tailbone has begun to send urgent, angry signals to your brain. After an hour, it's a dull, radiating ache that has spread to your lower back and down your thighs. This bench is not a place of rest. It is a place of endurance. It's a small, daily penance for the sin of having a physical body. You shift your weight. The rough spun wool of your habit scrapes against your skin. You've been wearing this same garment for, well, it washed on a schedule dictated by the feast days of obscure saints, which is to say, not nearly often enough. In the summer heat, it has developed a personality of its own. It smells of stale sweat, of the dust from the scriptorium, of the faint, greasy residue of fish from last Friday's meal, and of wood smoke that has become part of the fabric's very soul. It's less a piece of clothing and more a second, filthier skin, under your arms, around your neck. It's just part of the background noise of being alive. Now, let's talk about your task. Grinding herbs. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Almost meditative. You lift the pestle. It's stone. It's a tool, a blunt instrument of pulverization. Your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder will all protest this motion by the end of the hour. You bring it down, fey crunch fate. Then you begin to grind. Face crat. Shh. Asterisk stone on stone. The first thing you notice isn't the lovely lavender. It tastes like the floor of a cellar, like dirt. Then, the lavender releases its scent as you crush it, and for a moment, it face-fey beautiful, a sharp, clean floral burst that cuts through the evening air. But it's not alone. That gentle breeze wafting through the cloister isn't just carrying the scent of your herb garden. This is an open concept living situation, medieval style. That breeze is also carrying the smell from the kitchens, where cabbage is likely being boiled into a pale green mush for tomorrow's pottage. It's carrying the smell from the stables, a rich, earthy aroma of hay and horse manure. It's carrying the smell from the Riri daughter, the communal latrine, which is essentially a long wooden bench with holes cut in it, perched over a sluggishly flowing channel of water. The plumbing is gravity-fed, and today, gravity is feeling a little lazy, so that breeze brings you a faint, but unmissable, note of collective human waste. And then there is the most dominant smell of all. It's coming from the infirmary, just a few arches down from where you sit. It's the smell of sickness. Because you're not making potpourri. You're not an artisan creating a bespoke fragrance for a wellness spa. You're the monastery's infirmarian's assistant. You're a junior medical technician in an era before germs were invented. And this lavender isn't for calming your senses. It's for Brother Gr. Brother Gr has erysipelas. At least, that's what the infirmarian, Brother Philippe, calls it. You just know that his left leg, from the knee down, it's shiny, red, and hot to the touch. The skin is weeping a thin, yellowish fluid that smells faintly sweet, like meat that's just beginning to turn. Philippe, who read a translated copy of a book by a long-dead Roman named Galen, believes Gr has an excess of yellow bile, a hot and dry humour that is causing this fire in his leg. The prescription, something cool and moist to balance it out. Hence, this lavender and rosemary poultice you're making. The good news is, it will smell nice. The bad news is, it will do absolutely nothing for the streptococcal bacteria currently having an absolute feast on Brother Gr subcutaneous tissue. You're essentially applying a fragrant, herbaceous placebo to a raging bacterial infection. It's like trying to put out a house fire with a scented candle. You keep grinding. Feish. Shkra. Skraka. Asterisk, your shoulder is starting to burn. The repetitive motion is boring. Soul, you've been a monk for 8 years now. You joined when you were 16. Your father, a third son of a minor knight with too many mouths and not enough land, saw it as a good career move. Less mouth to feed, and a guaranteed path to salvation for the whole family. A win. Win. You call it a life sentence of manual labour, prayer, and terrible food. Let's talk about that prayer. In the distance, the chant continues. Fedominus verbiscum fee sound pours from the chapel like thick, slow-moving honey to a visitor. It's beautiful, haunting. The sound of God's own house band. To you, it's just more work. You were woken from your lumpy straw-filled mattress in the communal dormitory by a bell. No snooze button, no gentle alarm tones, just the violent, insistent clang of bronze that means, get up and praise the Lord before your body even realizes it's awake. You stood in a cold chapel for an hour, chanting psalms you know by heart, your brain still half asleep, your stomach rumbling. Then more prayer at Lauds, at Prime, at Terce, at Sext, at None. 7 times a day you gather to sing. It's not an expression of spontaneous joy. It's a mandatory scheduled activity. It's the spiritual equivalent of punching a time clock. The melodies are beautiful, yes, but when you sing the same melody every single day for 8 years, it ceases to be art. It becomes muscle memory. Your mouth forms the Latin words. Your throat, you're thinking about the blister forming on your heel. You're wondering if the bread at dinner will be mouldy again. You're trying to remember if it's your turn to clean the tallow lamps. The chant isn't ambience. It's the soundtrack to your incarceration. And it's not the only sound. Listen closer, push. Plus the drone of the choir and the scrape of your pestle. What else do you hear? It's not a normal cough, not someone clearing their throat. It's a deep, wet, rattling sound, a sound that seems to come from the very bottom of the lungs and brings something up with it. That's Brother Thomas. He is to use the modern vernacular. The poultice you'll make after this one, with coltsfoot and horehound, is for him. It's supposed to soothe his lungs. What it will actually do is make his phlegm taste slightly more interesting. That's the peak of its medical efficacy. There's another sound too. It comes and goes, a human metronome of misery. He was on his way to a shrine further south when he was overcome with a fire in his gut. The groaning is the only thing he has left. You don't know his name. You just call him the groaner. It's easier not to get attached. The customer churn in your line of work is significant. So, let's update our soundscape, shall we? You have the monotonous scraping of your own manual labor. You have the droning of your colleagues in a mandatory company meeting. You have the wet, hacking cough of a man whose lungs are liquefying. And you have the agonized groans of a stranger whose insides are staging a violent and explosive exit. This is your evening meditation. This is your tranquil, holy dream. It sounds less like a spiritual retreat and more like the audio from an unreleased horror film. Let's go back to the smells, because that lavender is fighting a war, and it is losing badly. The infirmary smell isn't just one thing. It's a heavy, sour milk scent that clings to bedding and skin. And the groaner. And defeated the infirmary's already feeble ventilation system. On top of this, you have the smell of medieval medicine itself. Brother Philippe is a big fan of cauterization for wounds that won't close. So, add the sharp, acrid smell of burnt flesh to the list. He also believes in bleeding patients to balance their humors. So, there's the coppery tang of blood, some of it fresh, some of it old and dried on rags in a corner. The chamber pots are emptied once a day, if someone remembers. So there's the sharp ammonia, rich stench of stale urine. The lavender you're crushing isn't a calming aroma. You mash the pestle into the mortar with more force, as if a stronger scent could somehow purify the air. It can't. It just adds a high, floral note to the overwhelming chorus of filth. It's like putting a flower in the lapel of a corpse. The gesture is nice. The effect is negligible. You pause for a moment, resting the heavy pestle on the rim of the mortar. Your hands are stained green and purple from the herbs. Your knuckles are scraped raw against the rough stone. You look at your hands. They are never truly clean. The dirt under your fingernails is a permanent feature. It's a mixture of garden soil, herbal residue, and things from the infirmary you try not to think about. You wash your hands before meals, as the rule of Saint Benedict dictates. But it's a symbolic act. The water is cold. There is no soap, only a coarse linen towel shared with 10 other men. Cleanliness is not next to godliness here. It's not even in the same neighborhood. The golden light is gone, replaced by a bruised purple twilight. The stones of the abbey no longer glow. They glower. They are immense, oppressive. They are the walls of your world. You have not been outside these walls in 3 years. It's a self-contained ecosystem of survival and salvation. You are 24 years old. You have a constant, dull headache from the ever-present smells and the poor nutrition. Fish on Fridays, usually salted to the point of desiccated agony. Meat is a distant memory, a privilege reserved for the very sick, a final, savory farewell before they meet their maker. You are perpetually, gnawingly hungry, not starving. Not yet. Just a low-level, constant emptiness in your belly that makes it hard to concentrate on the Psalms. You close your eyes, just for a second, not to fall into a holy dream, but to escape. You can't imagine a different life, not really. You don't have the vocabulary for it. You can't picture a world with antibiotics, or comfortable chairs, or indoor plumbing. Your imagination is small. You imagine a day where your back doesn't hurt. You open your eyes. Nothing has changed. The stone is still hard. The air is still thick with the ghosts of sickness. The pestle is still heavy. You have a job to do. You have a job to the size of this stone bowl. The scraping sound, the dull ache in your shoulder, the complex and horrifying tapestry of smells. This isn't a moment of peace. It's a moment of utter, absolute resignation. You are not filled with divine grace. You are filled with the grim realization that this is it. This is your life. Tomorrow will be the same as today. You will wake in the dark, you will chant, you will work, you will eat your miserable food, and you will sit on this same bench, grinding herbs for the dying, until one day you are the one whose cough provides the percussion for someone else's evening chores. The chant from the chapel swells, a final amen. You'll lie down on your straw mattress, sharing the air with 50 other snoring, farting, occasionally weeping men. You will try to sleep, knowing that in just a few short hours, the bell for matins will drag you back into the cold, dark reality of another identical day. You look down at the fragrant green paste in the bottom of the mortar. You've made enough. You carefully scrape it out onto a piece of clean linen. It smells powerfully of lavender and hope, a hope so misplaced, it's almost cruel. You stand up, your knees cracking in protest. Your back sends a bolt of pain up your spine. You pick up the small bundle and begin the short walk towards the infirmary, towards the symphony of smells and sounds that awaits you. The tranquil, holy dream is over. The night shift has begun. Hey guys, welcome back to Walking with Empires. So, let's talk about a fantasy. A very specific, very popular little daydream. It goes something like this. You picture yourself in the south of France, Provence. The name itself just sounds like a sigh of contentment, doesn't it? And it's the Middle Ages, but the good parts. The artisanal, pre-industrial, sun-drenched parts. The day's oppressive heat has finally broken, and a gentle breeze whispers through the cloisters of a silent monastery. You see the high stone walls glowing a warm zinghonsa, a sort of coppery gold, in the last light of the sunset. You imagine yourself as a monk, not one of the important, stressed gen-out ones, but a simple, humble brother. Your job, your entire world for this evening, is preparing herbs for the sick. You're sitting on a cool stone bench. Before you, a massive stone mortar. The monastery garden, a little square of paradise, is bursting with lavender, rosemary, and thyme. You imagine is thick with this incredible, calming, almost holy perfume. You've just snipped a few fresh bundles of lavender, and you can almost hear that crisp, juicy sound as the shears went through the stems. A sound like biting into a perfect apple. You drop the herbs into the mortar. You take up the heavy stone pestle, and you begin to grind slowly, methodically. There's a sound, a deep, rhythmic crunch and scrape of stone on stone, fish, crunch, asterisk. It's a kind of earthy, primal white noise. The sound of the planets, and as you grind, the scent intensifies. A cloud of pure, tranquil Provence. In the distance, from the Abbey Church, you hear it. The sound everyone romanticizes. The low, rolling, resonant plainsong of your brothers chanting Vespers, Gregorian chant, a perfect little bubble of historical zen, a medieval wellness retreat for the soul. Yeah, what you've just imagined is a marketing brochure for a past that never existed. The reality, as always, is colder, harder, and smells infinitely worse. So let's drop you in. Let's see how long your holy, tranquil dream lasts. Congratulations. The year is 1150, and that golden sunset isn't a beautiful backdrop for your meditation. It's the final, glaring reminder from God that the day is almost done, and you are still behind on your work. That light isn't caressing the stone walls, it's inspecting them. It's highlighting every patch of moss you were supposed to scrape off last week, every crack where the damp is getting in, every bird dropping on the abbot's favorite gargoyle. That golden light is a judgment, and the cool evening breeze. Oh, you can feel it, but it's not just whispering through the time. It is a courier. It's delivering a complex bouquet of aromas directly to your nostrils, a little signature scent of monastic life that no lavender on earth can conquer. First, it's a smell that gets in your clothes, in your hair, in the back of your throat. Then comes the bass note, the ever-present earthy musk of the monastery's open, concept sanitation system. The latrine, the Ferodorta Fey, is essentially a long wooden bench with holes in it, built over. The good news is the stream carries the waste away. The bad news is the stream isn't in a hurry, and the breeze is coming from that direction tonight. It's a smell of profound communal humanity, and woven through it all, like a foul golden thread, is the smell from the building just across the cloister. The infirmary, that's a smell of stale sweat, unwashed linen, and something else. Something sweet and cloying, the smell of sickness, the smell of rot. So you sit there, on your stone bench, breathing this layered, complex perfume of 12th century life, and you try to focus on the lavender in your hands. A losing battle. You are a monk, but let's be honest about you're here because you're the third son of a minor nobleman with a patch of land barely big enough to support your older brother. Your second brother went into the army. That left you. Your father called it. You call it being made redundant. It's a devotion to routine, to order, to survival. And the management is tough. You're sitting on a stone bench. Let's talk about that bench. In the morning. The wool of your habit, the one you wear every single day, summer and winter, is a masterpiece of discomfort. Now, as the evening cools, it's become a damp, clammy shroud that smells faintly of wet sheep and unwashed you. There's a reason it's called a habit. You have to get used to it, because it's the only outfit you own. It's on a low stone block, forcing you to hunch over in a position that modern chiropractors would use as a what not to do diagram. And you've just come from the garden. You were on your knees in the dirt, yanking up bunches of herbs, your other hand wielding a heavy, crude iron shear. The crisp, juicy sound wasn't one satisfying snip. It was 100 of them. Snip, 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 until the sound becomes a pulse inside your skull. The edges of the shears are dull, so you're not so much cutting the stems as you are crushing and tearing them. Your knuckles are scraped raw from the stony soil. Your fingernails are packed with dirt. The sticky, oily residue from the rosemary and thyme has coated your hands in a grime that will take days to wear off. Now, you drop the first bunch of lavender into the mortar, and you pick up the pestle. Feel the weight of it. This isn't a cute little kitchen tool for grinding peppercorns. You begin. You lift and drop. After a few minutes of this brutal crushing, you change your technique. Now you have to grind. You brace your feet on the flagstones. You lean your body weight into it. You force the head of the pestle against the side of the mortar and begin to drag it around. And now you hear that sound, that fish crunch but. It's not white noise. It's not soothing. It's the sound of your own energy being expended. It's the sound of friction. With every rotation, a fine dust of stone particles is scraped from the mortar and the pestle, mixing into your medicine. A thick, green-purple sludge is starting to form at the bottom of the mortar. The smell of lavender is overpowering now, but it's not calming. It is a raw, green, chemical smell, nothing like the gentle, dried potpourri you're used to. It's the plant's panic, its chemical defenses released in a final, desperate scream. It's so strong, it makes your eyes water. Sweat drips from your forehead, from the tip of your nose, and falls directly into the mixture. Extra salt again. Premium. No one's checking for health code violations here. You pause for a second to wipe your brow with the back of your filthy sleeve, and you look at your hands. They are stained a bruised purple. Green. The skin on your palms is raw and threatening to blister from the friction of the stone. A small cut on your knuckle, the one you got from the shears, is stinging from the herbal oils. Why are you doing this? For whom is this fragrant, sweaty stone? You're not just making a generic batch of calming balm. You have a stake as in the inferno. He was helping to repair the roof, slipped on a loose tile, and fell about 10 feet onto the cobblestones. He broke his leg. A simple fracture of the tibia. In your world, this is a catastrophic injury. He splintered it between 2 pieces of oak. But something went wrong. An infection set in. Of course, an infection set in. Everything is infection here. So now Brother Alaric lies in the infirmary, burning with fever. His leg, from the knee down, is no longer the colour of flesh. It is a swollen, grotesque parody of a limb, mottled with patches of angry red, sickly purple, and a terrifying waxy black. Weeps a foul-smelling, yellowish fluid that soaks through the linen bandages as fast as you can change them. The smell. You know, it's not medicine. You're not a fool. You know this fragrant goo won't fight the poison that's creeping up Alaric's leg. It won't cool his fever. It won't mend his corrupted flesh. So what is its purpose? It's twofold. First, you will take this paste and smear it on a cleanish piece of linen. You will then go into the infirmary holding your breath, and you will lay this poultice over the bandages on his leg. For a few minutes, perhaps an hour if you're lucky, the sharp, chemical smell of the lavender will overpower the sweet, gangrenous stench of his dying limb. It will give him a moment's olfactory peace. It is the only form of pain management you have to offer. Second, and more importantly, it's for you. The rule of Saint Benedict dictates that you must care for the sick as if you were caring for Christ himself. So you must be seen to be doing something. You cannot simply let Alaric lie there and rot, even though that is precisely what is happening. The grinding of the herbs is a performance of piety. It is a ritual of the rhythmic scraping of the pestle is proof that you have not given up, that the community has not abandoned its suffering member. You shudder. The breeze has shifted slightly. Now, underneath the latrine and the tannery, you can smell the kitchens. They're baking the bread for tomorrow. A sour, yeasty smell that reminds you that you're hungry. Dinner was, as always, a chunk of coarse bread, some watery vegetable pottage, and a mug of thin, sour wine. Your stomach is a hollow ache. Grinding the chanting, "O Lord, make haste to help me." But you're not falling into a holy dream. You're listening to your co-workers. That's Brother Philippe, whose voice cracks on the high notes, sharp and flat, like a dropped plate. There's the low, rumbling drone of Brother Clement, who has the loudest voice, but the worst sense of rhythm in all of Christendom. He's always half a beat behind everyone else. You can hear old Father Thomas, the librarian, his voice, a dry, papery rustle, and leading them all the abbot, his voice smooth and practiced, the voice of a man who enjoys the sound of his own authority. This isn't a divine chorus. It's a group of tired, hungry men, most of whom would rather be anywhere else, mechanically reciting words they've said thousands of times. It's a mandatory company meeting, held every few hours, 365 days a year. The music isn't about transcendence, it's about discipline. It's another turn of the screw, another reminder of the rigid, inescapable structure of your life. The melody rises and falls, but for you, it's just background noise. The real soundtrack to your life is the gritty, circular scrape of stone on stone. Fish crunch, K's shh, crunch. You don't see a holy vision, you see Brother Alaric's leg. You smell the infirmary. You feel the rough stone of the pestle under your palms, the ache in your spine, the gnawing emptiness in your gut. This isn't tranquility. This is sensory overload. It's a prison of sound and smell and texture. You open your eyes. The sun has slipped lower. The shadows in the cloister are long and black, like grasping fingers. Your work isn't done. You still have half a basket of herbs to get through. You shift your weight on the unforgiving stone bench, get a better grip on the pestle, and lean back into the grind. The chanting continues, a beautiful, meaningless river of sound. In the infirm, and you, Brother Michel, continue your work. You are making perfume for a corpse. You are grinding flowers to fight a war against bacteria you don't even know exist. You are performing a small, desperate, and utterly futile act of love in a world built on pain. There is no holy dream here. There is only the rough habit on your skin, the weight of the stone in your hands, and the certain knowledge that tomorrow the bells will ring at 2 in the morning, and you will get up and do it all over again. Assuming, of course, that you don't trip on a loose tile yourself. So next time you browse the artisanal soap aisle, and you see that bar of Provence lavender and rosemary, hand-milled, of course, just take a moment. Think of Brother Michel. Think of the sweat in the mortar, the grit of the stone, the smell of the latrine, the hopeless, loving gesture against the inevitable decay of Brother Alaric. Think about the sound of your own bones grinding away in the service of a beautiful, pointless lie. Then go home, turn on your electric lights, flush your toilet, and take a hot shower. And be grateful, be profoundly, deeply grateful that your life is not so. You've done it. You've survived the filth of the village, the questionable theology of the parish priest, and the general grinding misery of being a 12th century peasant. You've traded it all in. You're a monk now, in the heart of sun-drenched Provence, Anno Domini 1150. And your new life, you've been promised, is one of quiet contemplation, holy purpose, and serene communion with God. Just picture it. It's a perfect summer evening. The kind of evening that tourist boards and watercolor painters dream about. The brutal heat of the day has finally broken its fever, and a gentle breeze is starting to stir, carrying with it the first cool whispers of the coming night. The setting sun is hitting the high stone walls of the abbey, bathing everything in a warm, almost divine glow of gold and rose. You're sitting on a stone bench under the heavy arches of the cloister, a cool, solid weight beneath you. Before you is a massive stone mortar, worn smooth by generations of hands just like yours. The air in the cloister garden is thick, almost heavy, with the scent of 1,000 herbs: lavender, rosemary, thyme. You remember the crisp, juicy snap of the lavender stems as you cut them, a sound so fresh it felt like life itself. You drop a handful of the fresh purple blossoms into the mortar. You pick up the pestle. It's a club of stone, heavy and dense, and it feels important in your hand. You begin to grind. A slow, rhythmic, circular motion. Asterisk stone on stone, crushing the soft plant matter between them. It's a sound that feels ancient, earthy. It's the sound of the world being broken down into its essential parts. As you work, you can hear another sound drifting across the courtyard from the abbey's main chapel. It's the evening vespers, the deep, resonant drone of Gregorian chant. A dozen male voices, woven together into a single undulating river of sound that seems to hang in the air like incense. The scent of the lavender, the feel of the cool stone, the sound of the grinding, the holy drone of the chant. You close your eyes. You could almost fall into it. Now open your eyes. Let's get real. That heavy stone pestle, it's a tool for a job you hate. It's a tool for a job you hating for the better part of a decade. A low, persistent haws of this same repetitive motion. Fikara. Shhara. Your lower back is a solid knot of pain from leaning over this stupid bowl for half your waking life. This isn't a soundtrack for meditation. This is the sound of manual labor, the kind of mind-numbing, joint-destroying work that wears a man down to a nub. You're feeling the onset of carpal tunnel syndrome, 900 years before anyone will invent a name for it. And that glorious, calming scent of lavender. Take a deeper breath. Go on. It's trying and largely failing. The infirmary from here. You can just make out the scent profile. The top note is the sour ammonia, rich tang of old urine, baked into straw mattresses and woolen blankets that haven't been properly washed in a season. Beneath that, you get the unmistakable, sickly, sweet smell of decay. It's the smell of rotting flesh, not like a dead animal in the woods. This is different. It's warmer, softer. It's the smell of a living body consuming itself from the inside out. It has a cloying, fruity quality, like meat left in the sun for too long, mixed with the damp, earthy scent of mold. And under it all, the faint, metallic smell of blood. Not fresh blood, but old, dried blood that's flaked onto linen. It smells like rust and salt. The lavender isn't for calming your soul. It's the medieval equivalent of spraying a cheap aerosol in a public toilet. It doesn't eliminate the bad smell. It just sits on top of it, creating a bizarre stomach, turning potpourri of perfume and putrescence, flowers and filth, heaven and hell, all mixed up in one dizzying olfactory cocktail. You see, you're not just any monk. You're the Fey-infirmarian Fey. This wasn't a promotion. It wasn't an honor bestowed upon you for your piety or your gentle spirit. It's the job nobody else wanted. The previous infirmarian brother Thomas lasted 6 months before he developed a permanent facial twitch and a habit of talking to the walls. He's now enjoying a long-term sabbatical in a locked cell in the North Tower, where his main duty is screaming at pigeons. So, the abbot, a man whose management style is best described as divinely inspired tyranny, appointed you Your key performance indicators are simple. Keep the sick brothers out of sight, and if at all possible, try to keep the smell of their dying from putting the other monks off their dinner. Let's talk about your patients, the men for whom you are grinding these herbs. The lavender isn't a medicine, it's a distraction. You're actually making a poultice, a thick green paste of comfrey, yarrow, and a little bit of mouldy bread for good luck. Who's the lucky recipient? That would be Brother Matthew. The scaffolding, made from green wood and wishful thinking, gave way. It wasn't a long fall, maybe 15 feet, but he landed badly. His left tibia, the main bone in his lower leg, decided it no longer wanted to be an internal structure. It made a bid for freedom, punching right through the skin. You remember the sight, the jagged, yellowish, white shard of bone sticking out of his leg, shockingly clean against the dirt and blood. The way his foot was twisted at an angle that defied all geometry. The sound he was making wasn't a scream. It was a high, thin, continuous whimper, like a duck. You and 2 other brothers carried him to the infirmary. There was no setting the bone, no surgery. Your medical toolkit consists of herbs, prayers, and a grim sense of fatalism. Matthew's whimpering turned into a full-throated roar that echoed off the stone walls. Then you packed the wound with moss and wrapped it in linen. And now, 2 weeks later, Brother Matthew is your primary project. The leg has swollen to twice its normal size. The skin is stretched tight and shiny, and has turned a mottled, bruised colour, somewhere between purple and a very unhealthy-looking green. The wound itself is productive. It oozes a thick, yellowish fluid that smells like old cheese. When you change the dressing, which you're supposed to do twice a day, you have to hold a vinegar-soaked rag over your own mouth and nose to keep from vomiting. The good news is, Matthew has stopped screaming. The bad news is, he stopped screaming because a raging fever has boiled his brain into a state of delirium. He just lies there, his eyes wide and vacant, whispering to his long-dead mother. This poultice you're making, you know, on some level, that it's useless. You will smear this fragrant green sludge onto his hot, swollen leg. It will do nothing to fight the poison that is now coursing through his veins. It will not mend the bone. It will not stop the rot. But it will make it look like you're doing something. And the herbs will, for a few hours at least, make his corner of the room smell slightly less like a butcher's bin. You are not a healer. You are not a healer props around a dying man. Every illness, from a common cold to the bubonic plague, is simply an imbalance of these 4 fluids. Your job is to restore the balance. It's an elegant system, simple, comprehensive, and almost entirely wrong. Got a fever. That's too much blood. The solution is obvious. You press it against a vein, usually in the arm, and give it a sharp tap. The goal is to drain a cup or 2 of the excess humour. Sometimes, if the patient is particularly robust, you might drain 3, of course. This often leaves the already sick person weaker, paler, and more prone to fainting. But from your perspective, the feverish heat is reduced, mission accomplished. It's like trying to put out a fire by draining the fire engine's water tank. For more localized problems, you have an even better technology. Leeches. You have a special jar of them in the corner of the infirmary. They are your little wiggling assistants. They look like fat, slimy black worms. When a patient has a headache, you might stick a few on their temples. A swollen joint, slap a leech on it. They are surprisingly effective at drawing blood. They latch on with their tiny circular mouths, and their saliva contains an anticoagulant, so the blood flows freely. It feels like a series of small, sharp pinpricks, followed by a strange, cold, pulling sensation. When they've had their fill, they become bloated and fat, like little black sausages, and simply fall off. You then have to deal with the tiny, star-shaped wounds they leave behind, which, in this environment, have a rather high chance of getting infected themselves, curing a headache by giving someone a nice little scalp infection. That's progress. Your other go to treatment is cupping. As the air inside cools, it creates a vacuum, sucking the skin up into the cup. This is supposed to draw the bad humours to the surface. What it actually does is leave a perfect circular purple bruise that looks like the patient was attacked by a giant octopus. For more aggressive treatment, for applying the cup. This is your world. A world of fevers, treated with bloodletting. You're a technician of tradition, applying ancient, misunderstood remedies with a terrifying consistency. There are no clinical trials. There is no peer review. There is only the word of men who have been dead for 1,000 years. And when the patients die, and they almost always die, it's never the fault of the treatment. It was simply God's will, the ultimate get out of jail free card for medical malpractice. And what about your own health? Your employee, you eat twice a day. The main meal is a thick soup or pottage of boiled grains and whatever vegetables are in season, served with a hunk of coarse dark bread. The bread is so dense you could use it to stone a heretic. Meat is a rarity reserved for feast days or for the sickest brothers. A last-ditch effort to build up their strength before the inevitable. The cloister, beautiful and serene as it looks, often carries the faint tell-tale scent of collective flatulence, a constant, low-grade miasma that no amount of lavender can conquer. You sleep in a communal dormitory privacy. What's that? It's a long hall lined with simple wooden cots. Your mattress is a sack of straw. It's lumpy. It rustles every time you move, and it's a thriving ecosystem for fleas, lice, and other tiny, unwelcome bedfellows. You often wake up in the morning with fresh constellations of itchy red bites on your arms and neck. There is no memory foam. There are no ergonomic pillows. There is only straw and bugs, and the symphony of 40 other men snoring, coughing, and muttering in their sleep. And the work is relentless. Your day is structured by the liturgy of the hours. 8 services spread across the day and night. You're woken up before dawn. Around 2 a.m. for matins, you stumble out of your flea, bitten bed, your joints stiff with cold, and shuffle into the unheated stone chapel. You chant prayers for an hour in the freezing dark, your breath pluming in front of you. Then it's back to bed for a few hours before Lauds at sunrise. Fen Prime. In between these mandatory worship sessions, you work. In the fields, you were the 3rd son of a minor nobleman. Your older brother got the land. Your 2nd brother was married off to secure an alliance. And you. So, at the age of 12, your family gave you to the church. It was a donation, like giving a parcel of land or a few heads of cattle, a way for them to buy a little spiritual insurance. You had no say in the matter. Your holy calling was a business transaction, negotiated by your father and the abbot. He is your God on earth. He has absolute authority. He is the CEO, the HR department, and the chief of police, all rolled into one. He dictates your diet, your work, your sleep. He can have you flogged for disobedience or confined to a cell for insolence. Your entire existence is scripted. It's designed to break your will, to erase your individuality, to make you a compliant cog in a great, holy machine. So as you sit here on this cool stone bench, with the scent of lavender and death in your nostrils, grinding a useless paste for a dying man, you listen to that chant, Faker Kash. You are trapped in a beautiful gilded cage. The chant isn't a song of joy. It's the sound of the cage bars. It's the deep, resonant hum of routine, of order imposed upon chaos, of rules imposed upon the messy, painful reality of human life. It's the soundtrack of your resignation. You look down at the green paste in the mortar. Time to perform the ritual. As you turn to leave the cloister, and completely meaningless. All right, let's wrap this up. For our final journey, we're heading to the south of France. The year is 1150. The region is Provence. And picture it, and there you are, a monk, peacefully grinding herbs in a stone mortar, a holy dream of tranquility and purpose. It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? The kind of thing that makes you want to quit your job, deactivate your social media, and go find a simpler, more meaningful existence. Let's be very, very clear. That dream is a myth, a fantasy. The reality is a nightmare of filth, exhaustion, and futile gestures against the inevitable tide of human suffering. The scene described isn't a serene dream. It is the prelude to someone having a very, very bad night. And that someone is you. Close your eyes. Go on. Take a deep breath. It bleeds across the sky, painting the high stone walls of the Abbey of Svenank in hues of gold and crimson. The day's labour is almost done, which means the night's horrors are about to begin. That warm stone under your thighs isn't comforting. It's a temporary reprieve from the cold flagstones of the dormitory you'll soon be sleeping on. If you get to sleep at all, that gentle evening breeze, don't breathe too deeply. Yes, you can pick up a hint of lavender, a whisper of the thyme and rosemary you've just hacked away at in the garden, but that's not the dominant scent. That's just the garnish on a thick, invisible stew of smells. From its unglazed windows wafts the signature perfume of 12th century healthcare, a complex bouquet of stale sweat, unwashed linen, vomit, and the sweet, cloying odour of infected flesh. It smells like something has gone terribly, biologically wrong. You sit on the hard stone bench, the chill of it seeping through the coarse wool of your habit. Your back aches. It's a permanent resident in the vertebrae between your shoulder blades, a souvenir from years of stooping over garden beds, scrubbing floors, and copying manuscripts in poor light. Your habit, by the way, feels like sandpaper against your skin. It's been a long, hot day. The wool is damp with your sweat, and you can feel the familiar prickle of fleas exploring the terrain of your scalp. Personal hygiene is not a priority here. The rule of Saint Benedict allows for a bath perhaps twice a year. It is a special occasion, like Christmas, but with more scrubbing and less joy. In front of you sits the great stone mortar. You grip the pestle. You let it fall. Fequang. You let it fall. Fequang uses manual labour in its most monotonous form. The crisp, juicy snap of the lavender stems you cut earlier feels like a distant memory. Now, it's just a pulpy, greenish, purple sludge clinging to the sides of the bowl. The fresh scent has been bruised into something sharp and slightly bitter, mixed with the dusty smell of the stone itself. With every impact, a fine mist of plant juice and stone dust puffs into the air, coating your nostrils and the back of your throat. You are the Fey-infirmarian Fey, the monastery's head of medicine. This isn't a wellness hobby. It's your sacred, horrifying duty. You're not preparing a calming pillow spray. You're mixing a poultice for Brother Thomas. Let's talk about Brother Thomas. He was helping to repair the roof of the chapel yesterday when a slate tile slipped. He didn't fall far, maybe 15 feet, but he landed badly. His left leg is, well, the bone is not where it should be. It came through the skin. You poured wine into the wound, which was the 12th century equivalent of using antiseptic. The good news is, wine has alcohol. The bad news is, it is not nearly enough, and the searing pain probably made him pass out, which you counted as a small mercy. You tried to set the bone. You and Philippe pulled on his leg until you heard a wet, sickening pop, and Thomas's eyes rolled back in his head. You bound it with linen strips and splintered it with 2 pieces of oak. Now, less than a day later, the leg is swollen to twice its normal size. The skin is a mottled purple and red, stretched tight and shiny, and hot to the touch. A foul-smelling yellowish liquid is weeping from the wound, soaking through the linen. This is what the lavender is for. You're not trying to heal him, you know, with a cold, hard certainty deep in your gut that you cannot heal him. The rot has set in. That's your job. You are a glorified janitor for the dying. You know what the old texts say. Galen and Hippocrates. The treatment should be something cooling and wet. This poultice is cooling and wet. It fits the theory perfectly. It will also do absolutely nothing. You know this. You've seen it a dozen times before. The infection is not in the skin. It's in the blood. In the bone, all you have is this fragrant mud and a few whispered prayers. From the abbey church, the sound of the evening prayer, vespers, drifts across the courtyard. The Gregorian chant. It's monotonous. It's the low. The chanting tells you where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing at every hour of the day and night. Your day started hours before sunrise, with the bells for matins. You woke in the dormitory, a long, cold room you share with 40 other men. You woke to the symphony of their sleep, the snores, the coughs, the wet, hacking sounds from Brother Clement, who's had a lung sickness for years, the sudden, violent bursts of flatulence from the bean. Heavy diet. There is no privacy. Privacy hasn't been invented yet. You stumbled out of your straw-filled mattress. No memory foam here. And into the freezing chapel, your breath pluming in the candlelight. Prayer. Then more prayer. Then a brief, meagre breakfast of coarse brown bread. So hard you have to soak it in your watered down wine to make it chewable. Then labour, feora et labora, fay and work. That's the rule. For you emptied the chamber pots, filled with the foul evidence of Brother Jean's dysentery. You changed the blood-soaked dressings on the woodsman who'd gashed his arm with an axe. You sat with old Father Michael, whose mind has turned to soup, listening to him babble about his childhood in a village you've never heard of. You are surrounded by the slow, grinding erosion of the human body. This is your office. These are your colleagues. Fa Quang Chi, asterisk your stomach rumbles. You are always hungry. Not starving. Not yet. Just a constant, gnawing emptiness in your belly that sharpens the senses and dulls the spirit. The hunger is a tool. It's meant to keep you focused on the spiritual, to remind you that the flesh is weak and right now it just makes you tired. It looks deceptively wholesome. like some kind of artisanal pesto you might find in a modern farmer's market. Farm to table medicine. The air is thick, stagnant, and alive with flies. Brother Thomas is in the one closest to the door. He is not screaming anymore. He's shivering despite the warmth of the room, his skin pale and clammy. His eyes are wide, fixed on the ceiling. He is lucid for now. "Brother Antoine," he whispers. His voice is a dry rasp. "I have something for the pain." You lie. You're not so sure. You've seen too much of it to believe it has any noble purpose. The smell hits you full in the face, a gag reflex, triggering wave of rot and sickness. You force yourself not to recoil. You have to project an aura of calm, of competence. It's the only medicine you truly have. You unwind the soiled linen bandages. The leg is worse than you imagined. The flesh around the wound is no longer red. It's turning a dark, bruised purple, creeping towards black at the edges. This is it. The gangrene. Thomas makes a small, whimpering sound as the cool evening air hits his feverish skin. You take a deep breath, trying to filter it through your mouth. You scoop up a gob of the green paste with your fingers. It's cool and slimy. You smear it over the swollen, discolored flesh, trying to be gentle, trying not to look too closely at what lies beneath. The lavender does its job for a moment. The clean, sharp scent of the herb overpowers the stench of decay. A small victory, a pointless one. "This will help," you say, your voice a hollow echo in the quiet room. He knows you're lying. You know he knows. Anthony's fire. He got it from the rye bread a few weeks ago. The ergot fungus. You just knew that half the monastery was suddenly struck with crawling sensations under their skin, as if they were infested with ants. For most, it passed. For Sebastian, it didn't. First came the burning pain in his limbs, a fire in his veins that made him scream for hours. Then came the rot. His fingers and toes turned black, dry and brittle. Like charcoal, they fell off last week. Now, the hallucinations have started. He's sitting bolt upright in his bed, pointing a bandaged stump at the empty corner of the room. "Demons," he shrieks, his voice cracking. "They are crawling on the walls. Can't you see them? Their eyes are fire. There are no demons. There are only the toxic alkaloids of a fungus messing with the chemistry of his brain. But his terror is real. His hell is real. And there is no herb in your garden that can fix it." You finish with Thomas, murmur another useless platitude, and walk over to Sebastian. You sit on the edge of his bed, taking his remaining hand. "It's cold. There are no demons, brother." You say, your voice low and steady. "There is only God in this room." He stares at you, his eyes wild with terror, not seeing you at all. He's already in another world, a world of fire and crawling things. You will sit with him until he tires himself out. This is also your job. You will lie down on your straw pallet, the sounds of coughing and moaning from the infirmary still echoing in your ears. You will not be dreaming a serene, holy dream. You will be staring into the darkness, smelling the ghost of lavender and gangrene on your hands. You will be thinking about the fragility of the human body. You will be thinking about the terrifying silence of God in the face of so much suffering. You will think about the fact that you entered this monastery at 15, a third son with no inheritance and no prospects. You came here seeking salvation, a quiet life of contemplation. You found a life of back-breaking labor and front-row seats to the horror show of pre-modern medicine. There is no escape. This is your life until you are the one lying in the infirmary bed, waiting for a younger monk to smear a useless, fragrant paste on your own rotting flesh. This is the reality of your serene dream. It's in the quiet, grim determination to get up in the cold darkness and do it all again tomorrow. So, the next time you find yourself browsing the wellness aisle and you see a bottle of lavender essential oil promising tranquility and peaceful sleep, pause for a moment. Think of Brother Antoine. Think of the heavy, grating crunch of the pestle in the mortar. Think of the smell it was so desperately trying to hide. The simple life you romanticize was anything but simple. It was brutal, short, and saturated with a level of misery we can barely comprehend. Be grateful for your noise, cancelling headphones, your memory foam mattress, and your access to antibiotics. Be grateful that when you get sick, your first line of defense isn't a handful of crushed flowers and a lie.